think that the Electoral Act and law has been amended, reenacted, a lot of things have happened to it. So far, since 1999, 5 times. What do you make of this constant changes? And as stakeholders say, has it really been able to bring us to the right place throughout our elections in Nigeria?
Again, thanks for having me. It is important to state that change is the only constant phenomenon. Elections come with its own upheaval, comes with a lot of challenge with the court processes. So ahead of another election, there are usually proposals to deal with inefficiency in the system. So what you're seeing, as you've just mentioned, is that every electoral cycle, there's always a demand to amend the previous gap in the previous election. So, for instance, ahead of the 2021 elections, 2023 elections, civil society, stakeholders, and everyone thought that the 2022 Electoral Act, the repeal and reenacted, was a game changer. Even though we also know that it took former President Muhammadu Buhari, now late, almost 6 attempts before signing that bill, after refusal, 6 refusal before signing that into law. So every election comes with some technical issues that need to be strengthened ahead of the next election. For instance, you just heard them lawmakers talking about overvoting. At this time in our electoral jurisprudence, we should not be talking about overvoting. We now use technology, the beavers, that should be the game changer, should be able to eradicate all forms of overvoting. What is overvoting? Overvoting states that if there are 50 people that show up to vote, and suddenly you have 51 ballots in the ballot box, that one additional vote creates an overvoting in a particular polling unit. The question is, how did it happen? Two things are possible. Or let me say one thing. Okay, 2 things are possible. One is that there is a deliberate attempt by any individual, actors, electoral officials, to put just one ballot in the box to create an voting scenario. That's one. 2 is that there's a mistake from electoral official to tick the name of a voter in the voter register, which means if the official did not tick that name and the person ends up voting, that ballot paper will be in the ballot box. I think what the National Assembly needs to do is to, first of all, use the electronic accreditation mandatorily, that is BVAS. The paper register should be the alternate. In this case today, the paper register is the main document for accreditation. We need to flip it. If the BVAS is the main machine for accreditation, which INEC actually made mandatory, everybody that goes through the BVAS machine, it will be automatically recorded. And that list from the BVAS machine is used for accreditation. That way, you will not have anything that has to do with overvoting. Where did the ballot bag come from? And in any case, if a ballot bag is smuggled into the ballot box, then it will be a fault of everybody in that polling unit, including the voters. Where that happened, people argue that it should be, you have to share it. No, you can't share it. You deal with it, address it, look for where the error came from, and address it. Otherwise, we end up canceling the election, appropriating numbers, which is not for the best interest of Nigeria elections.
Okay. Now, we're staying with this overvoting. One of the recommendations by one of the lawmakers was that the polling person, the person presiding over that polling unit should be arrested, should be, something should be done to them legally. Do you actually agree with that sentiment?
We've talked about that again and again when you put the burden of proof on the presiding officer, which is good, but you end up running into a challenge where people will avoid to play the role of presiding officers. If they know you get to locations, for instance, where the return of the presiding officer without any form of protection is attacked, or there's some kind of bandwagon that invaded a polling unit and forcefully drop ballot paper inside the ballot box, maybe due to form of commotion, and then the presiding officer did not know that the ballot paper has been dropped to that box, you are going to be punishing the wrong person. I think what is important is that the presiding officer should investigate. And how do you do that? For every ballot paper that's issued to a voter, it needs to be properly signed and dated, which INEC currently does. If any ballot paper comes from any foreign body and get into the box without those signatories, without those dates, without a stamp, those ballot papers should be removed. There should be no argument. The ballot papers should be removed. Here, in any case, that all the paper have been stamped, all the ballot papers have been stamped, duly signed and dated, and it finds its way into the ballot box, then the presiding officer should be held accountable because he had issued those ballot papers by himself. However, it is possible there's a human error. And that is why I said just now that we need to create some proof in a way that we remove the human error from that system. And the only way to remove human error is through technology. And INEC has already deployed technology, which is good enough to enhance our architecture.
Okay. Now, for those who maybe just join us and don't understand what we're talking about the bill, the election amendment bill that was kind of passed today or by the House of Reps. I'm going to go through some of the recommendations and changes or amendments made to the bill and ask you our final question. Now, they say that mandatory real-time electronic results transmission, meaning that the presiding officers should send the results in real time through technology immediately, tougher penalties for false and manipulated results, technology, as you just mentioned now, as primary accreditation tool, stiffer penalties for vote buying and electoral offenses, election preparedness and INEC funding. On that clause, they say that the money should be made available for INEC 1 year before the elections. There's another more with amendments made to, this evening, rather today, on the floor of the Green Chamber. Do you believe that these amendments have somehow solved the issues that we witnessed in the 2023 elections and better prepares us for the next election come 2027?
Fantastic, particularly the release of funds 1 year to election to the electoral management. This is important. INEC has a way of going cap in hand, going to beg, literally beg for the release of funds in an election year. No, that's a fantastic proposal, and that's something that came during the public hearing, and I'm happy they passed it through. Then for the electronic transmission, I had argued in that public hearing that we need to specify in the act that the electronic transmission shall be mandatory to a portal and they shall declare and be available to the citizens or the voters. I haven't seen it passed. I haven't seen the cleaned up copy, but if it's just transmit results in that public hearing, the argument was that there's a transmission of results to next level. We are not asking for the next level of transmission of results. We are asking transmission of results onto a portal that citizens, voters, the global communities, everybody can have access to. And that portal can be called RF, as INEC has called it today, the INEC Result Viewing Portal. If that platform exists, and the platform that had glitches in the 2023 election that created some gap, trust deficit in our electoral management system. And importantly, if the National Assembly can truly create that transmission of results mandatory online, political parties that cannot create or properly pay their party agent will be at their own peril. And I think there should need to even be a law. Parties who are unable to deploy party agents should not go to the court and argue anything. They should only argue in areas where they have party agents. Otherwise, it will be nonsensical for a party to go to court and be making claims where they have not deployed agents. And I think that either way, by the next election in 2027, we'll be back again to look at the current electoral act, because there will be no innovations, new problems. Because for every solution, for every problem you solve, technically you create another problem. And I hope that this act will not create another problem. But I'm also very important to say that I also had the argument about candidates belonging to two parties. It's not possible by the proposal, unless that's what has gone into that law, is that you have to party primaries have 6 months to election. So you cannot even be one party A and party B. You will be in both. And for you to contest election, the register, the voter register must be available online at least 30 to 60 days, so that we don't have some strong men who hold a register that is not available to the candidates.
All right, thank you so much, Austin Aigbe, for your insights on the electoral amendments today.
Thank you very much.